Hello, I'm so glad to be with you again today to read the story from the Gospel Story Bible. And today's story can be found on page 239. It's story 119, and the title of the story is Another Miraculous Catch. And this story comes from John chapter 21. The disciples were full of joy after they saw Jesus arisen from the dead. Now they understood many things they hadn't understood before, but they still had a lot of questions. When would they see Jesus again? No one knew. How should they spend their time now that Jesus was no longer teaching the crowds every day? They didn't know that either. So one day, Peter decided to go fishing, doing what he had always done, until Jesus had said, "Come, follow me." He invited some other disciples to come along. Thomas, Nathaniel, James, John, and a couple of others got into the boat and went out to fish. All night long they fished, but they caught nothing. It was almost dawn when they saw a man on shore. It was Jesus, but they didn't recognize him. They were not very far out from land, and Jesus called out, "Friends, do you have any fish?" "No," they answered. "Throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some," Jesus called back. The disciples did what Jesus said, but when they started to pull the net back into the boat, it was so heavy with fish that they couldn't pull it in. "It is the Lord," John realized. He told Peter, and Peter didn't waste a moment. He jumped into the water and swam to Jesus while the others tried to pull the net full of fish to shore. When the boat finally landed, the disciples got out and saw Jesus next to a charcoal fire. There were some fish laid out on it and some bread. "Bring a few of the fish you just caught," Jesus suggested. Peter dragged the net onto the beach, and the disciples counted the fish. There were 153 large fish, yet the net had not torn. Jesus and the disciples ate their breakfast of bread and fish together. This was the third time Jesus had appeared to them after rising from the dead. Although Jesus never said who he was, they knew it was the Lord. After breakfast, Jesus spoke to Peter as they sat with the other disciples. "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" Peter answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Then Jesus told him, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus asked if Peter loved him. "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you," Peter replied. Jesus told him, "Take care of my sheep." Then Jesus asked a third time, "Do you love me, Peter?" Peter was sad that Jesus had asked a third time. "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you," he said. Again, Jesus replied, "Feed my sheep." Then Jesus told Peter that he would die serving God. And once again, just as he had in the beginning, Jesus said to Peter, "Follow me." Do you remember when Peter told Jesus he was willing to follow him to prison and to death? As soon as Jesus was arrested, Peter's confidence melted into fear. Before the night was over and the rooster crowed, Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times. Then, after the resurrection, Jesus asked Peter the question 3 times, the same number as Peter's denials. This was Jesus' way of restoring his relationship with Peter and calling him to the work of feeding and caring for the people of God, his sheep. In that meeting, Peter was forgiven and restored to Christ. Jesus erased any lingering doubts Peter might have had by repeating 2 special words: follow me. Jesus' sacrifice on the cross made a way for Peter to be forgiven, and the cross provides our forgiveness as well. The question for us is the same question Jesus asked Peter. Do you love me? Do we love Jesus?